Well, welcome guys back to the Collab Season 1, Episode 9. Thank you guys so much for joining us. My name is Josiah, here with the one and only Pastor Nate.
Hey, there we go.
Let's go. Nate has so many names. Go through all the names that you have right now.
Bishop Burdine.
Yes, sir.
Preacher Nate. Natey B.
Natey B on the track.
What else? I think that's really it.
mean-
Nathaniel. If you call me Nathan, we'll have to fight.
Yeah.
Someone called me Nathan the other day. I don't know. It was yesterday, and it irked my
Just
soul.
Pastor.
Pastor.
Burdine.
Yeah. Ooh,
Don't do
one.
that.
That one's a bad one too. Unless you're my football coach.
Yeah.
He only calls me Burdine.
If you're your football coach, you
Yeah.
can call you anything.
Or you just call me Nate. I like Nate.
Yeah.
I'm cool with
I
Nate.
like Josiah too.
This is what's weird to me when I'm in public and people just come up to me like, "Hey, Pastor Nate." I'm like, "You can call me by Nate. It's fine. I get it. I see it. Maybe when I'm older, I'll be like, bestow the glory upon me. But now I'm like, Nate can be my name. That's fine."
Yesterday, people were saying my full name. I mean, most people call me Joe here, but new people call me Josiah. But I like Josiah. I don't not like Joe. But when people say your full name, you're like, "Hi, you're awesome."
I remember I was somewhere the other day and someone goes, "Oh, so you know Josiah, right?" And I was like, "Who the heck is that?"
You're thrown. You're
Yeah,
like,
I
"What
was like,
the?"
"No," because I only
Yep.
call you Joe.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Which a lot of people do. But welcome to the
There
podcast,
you
guys. We are back in the stew. Let's go. Today we are talking about the future of the church. And when I was looking at that title, I was thinking about the topic. We're not necessarily talking about what will the church look like in the future, but we're talking about the younger generation. We're talking about Gen Z, Gen Alpha. They will be the future of the church. And so if you're listening today and you're like, "Okay, I'm excited what their views on how many LED screens are going to be in the future of the church, or is it all going to be online?" We're not necessarily talking about that. I mean, we can dive into that if you want. But we're really focusing on this generation that we pastor and we lead. We're youth pastors in Tacoma at a church called Life Center. We love what we do, and we want to empower them to have more conversations like this, where it's transparent, it's honest, and it's we move towards growth. We move towards more collaboration. So talking about the future of the church. A couple weeks ago, you were at a summer camp preaching. I preached last night at a summer camp one time, and I was like, "Man, that was awesome. That was great." I can't believe you did 4 nights?
4 nights.
4 nights at a summer camp.
Yeah.
One day I'll be on your level, be on the circuit like Natey B. But I would love to start there.
Yeah.
What did you see at the camp that you were at from an outsider perspective? Like,
Yep.
These aren't our students, this isn't our church, but we come in to preach and we get to hang out with these students.
Yeah.
What did you see in that generation? Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, I think, and one thing for me is I love, it was funny, they asked me before I spoke at the camp, "Hey, do you want to hang out with us?" I was like, that's such a weird question, because I'm just come from a Young Life background. I come from a highly relational background, so I was like, of course I want to hang out with you guys. So I hung out with them every time, played basketball, we went to all their events, and something I realized is that a lot of the younger people, they just want to love Jesus. That's straight up. Like, they don't really care about all the extra stuff, all the game. I mean, the games are cool, all that stuff is fun, but they just want to love Jesus. And also, they will talk however they want in the church. It was something I realized. Like, we're playing basketball, and these kids are dropping all types of bombs. But then in 10 minutes later, they're in the altar like this. And I'm like, what? And I think it's one thing is that I think I know a lot of times we're talking about the church as an unsafe place, but I think a lot of kids now are seeing the church as their only safe place. And what they do is they call it staycation. And so they just go to the church all day, and then they just go home at night. So when I went back to my hotel, they went back to their homes. And then they come back to the church. But the coolest story that I have from there is there was this kid, I'll just call him Jay for short, and he was adopted. He was a black student, and he had the same upbringing as me. A couple father issues, those different things, and we just connected. And it was cool because the thing about this kid is he never had his shirt on. No matter what, we're in chapel, we're in public, never had his shirt on. It was hot though, but seeing in him and seeing in these kids is they love each other. Yeah. They are about each other more than anything. And so I'm like, how can we I know it's like, why do we utilize everyone's gifts? But how can we utilize that? Like, these kids love each other.
Yeah.
Like, they barely know it, but that was cool. That's what I love about this, and that's why I thought about, like, even for, like, what we do and, like, for what I do, even with my family, is they're just so connected. We did a car wash. Yeah. People were pulling up. Everyone knew everybody. I know it's a smaller town, but everyone knew everybody. People would get out the car and help start washing the car. Like, I don't know. I just loved the community aspects and that they were about each other, but that they were safe. Like, the fact that these kids were dropping, like, bombs, and the leaders didn't correct them at first. And I started talking. I was like, why aren't you correcting these kids? And he's like, they're here. Like, I'm not going to start changing how they act. Like, that's going to happen when you start speaking and we're in the chapel doing worship and stuff. So it was dope.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think even with our students, you see, like, even after summer camp, like, you see how much love they have for each other, and, like, through time and building relationships, obviously, like, how they love us and, like, you know, put our arms around us, or, like, touch our head, or, like, hug us, or whatever. It's like they're, like, very, like, physical. I mean, like, not in a weird way, but, like, in a very affectionate, loving way. Always wanting to, like, put your arm, like, hey, how you doing, Joe? Like, right? I'm like, what's up, man? Like, it's just kind of funny.
Yeah.
But you see that with between them and their other friends and their students, like, just quick to love, quick to connect, quick to, like, honor and respect where other people come from, which I think we struggle with, like, within the adult church, the big church, or the global church. Is just respecting people's opinions, respecting people's backgrounds, where they stand, whether they cuss or not, or whether they believe in this theology or that theology, this scripture, that scripture. We struggle with that as you get older. But these students are like, no, we love them. Like, we love that kid. The kid that no one would love, like, yeah, we love him. Let's put him in the middle.
Exactly.
Let's hype him up. Let's put him on our shoulders. Like, they cheer and champion better than any other generation.
Facts.
And it's wild. Like, it's so crazy. I look at it, I'm like, that's kind of weird, but I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's different. And so, yeah, at the summer camp I was at, like, the same thing. Like, immediately Chris and I, we walk in, and first off, like, these students, they're like students of color, they come up to us like, oh, they got the drip. They got the drip. And immediately they're hugging us, dapping us up, like, pushing us around, like, what's up? And, like, you don't know who I am.
Exactly.
Like, I could be a stranger. I'm a stranger.
Yeah.
It'd be so weird, but, like, they automatically embrace both these two random strangers. Obviously, we're coming in to preach, but they just embrace us that quick. And I was like, this is it. Like, you guys are tight. Like, you guys are my guys right away. And so the quick to connect and quick to love is just, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. A cool story from the summer camp I was at yesterday was just and when I think of the future of the church, I think, like, of these students are so expressive with how they connect with each other, but they're really inside, you don't see it all the time, they are expressive in how they connect with God. And it was powerful to see that last night. And I know we're trying to create that culture within our student ministry of, like, yeah, shout down the pastor, yeah, raise your hands in worship, jump up and down, like, be expressive. And although that's not the only way to express, like, that is a way. But these students were jumping up and down. These students were like, woo, woo. These students were waving flags. These students were, like, hyped for Jesus. And I was like, man, it was pure.
Wow.
Like, this is it. Like, it's not a distraction. It's not like, hey, you got to be at this angle in worship. It's like, there was a kid laying on his back on the stage during worship. Hey. Just receiving the presence of God. And I'm like, that's wild, but that's awesome at the same time. Just like, I love it. I'm like, hey, like, that's crazy. And, like, but the thing was, the leaders were setting the standard in this. Like, they were saying the culture. And because I was, like, looking at the leaders, they were waving flags, they were jumping up and down, they were doing, like, high knees, all that stuff. And, like, this other adult leader was laying on the pews, just, like, on her back. And I'm like, it was like, I was thrown off. I was like, this is kind of crazy. But to me, I was like, this is it. This is what it looks like. This is what the future of the church looks like. This is embracing the young generation and how they connect with God, and not saying, hey, because we have done it this way, you have to do it that way.
Yep.
It's saying, no, express it however you want. Like, I know it sounds like, take your shirt off and worship if you want at summer camp. Like, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Yes,
you probably shouldn't do
probably.
that. But like things like that,
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, let them do that. Because that's inside of them. And if we keep on putting a box, me and my boxes, like I hate being put in a box.
Boxes.
But if we keep putting these kids in a box and putting boundaries around how their faith should look, then it's going to look like robotic faith.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my fear with the future of the church is like, man, if we don't let these kids express their faith how they want to, and we're always dictating of how it should look and how you need to fit in the church, it's like, no, the church should fit to the youth.
Yep. That's what we heard.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
what, last week, right?
Yep.
This idea of like, and I think you have the quote for sure, but this idea of like, we should lean or like gear towards the young,
Yep.
but lean into the wisdom of the old.
Yep.
And I think you have a couple stories that were shared last week
Yep.
that I think are powerful when it comes to that idea. But I think so specifically, I think when you're talking about the youth or even their worship, they don't have trepidation about championing people, centering people, or just saying, I'm just going to worship how I want to worship. And I think we've talked about like every 500 years there's a great change in the church.
Yep.
And I don't know what that change is going to be, but I just feel like one, it's going to be buildingless. So like less kids and less students are going to want to go into the buildings. But also I think it's going to look, I don't have a better word, but it's just going to look weird. And I think the way it looks weird is because we've done, and there's nothing wrong with these things, but we've done, hey, we're going to sing the hymns. We got the books, and then what happened? Now we start singing these contemporary songs. There's guitars, there's drums. Everyone's like, yo, what is going on? Rapping on stage. And now that's kind of the norm, right? Okay, so now what is it going to look like in 20 years from now?
Yeah.
No one knows. Well, here's the fact of the matter. No matter what you want to say, the 14-year-old that you're like, that person doesn't know how to worship God, or the 20-year-old, that person is too crazy, or the 25-year-old where they're like, man, their life is falling apart. They're going to be our future pastors, our future worship leaders, our future accountants, they are going to lead the church. And so I think my job is to champion them even more. Yesterday at our summer sessions where we help lead students in different ways and help plan our gatherings, we asked them multiple times, hey, who wants to do this stuff? No one raised their hand. I was like, okay, cool. There was one kid who kept raising their hand. They're like, I'll do it. You know exactly who. I'll do it. And I was like, okay, all right, you can do this. But I had to stop in the moment and be like, okay, listen, whatever you've seen as perfection, whatever you've seen that needs to go on stage, throw that out of your mind right now. Because that doesn't matter. It doesn't exist. Okay? And they're like, and I'm like, listen, I come with my own issues. Josiah comes with his own things. We're all coming, and we have been called to lead these people. And the fact that you're in this room is you're being called to lead your friends. So we need you. And they were all like, oh, okay. So then the next thing I asked them, everyone raised their hand. And I was like, oh, they just need to be encouraged and pushed to, because what they see on maybe even a Sunday night when we have our gatherings is they see it so tempoed and we got it together. If we were asked to do a ministry time last minute, you could hop in and just make it happen. But they're like, oh, I got to prepare. I got to do this. And I think that's also a big thing about this generation too, though, is they're huge perfectionists. If it's not done perfect, they don't really want to do it.
Because they see it. They see the best of the best through social media. So they think, man, I gotta be that. And that's where that unhealthy expectation of I need to be Logan Paul if I'm doing a YouTube channel. It's like, no, you don't gotta be Logan Paul. You don't gotta be FaZe Clan. You could just be you. That's what I mean. Even sorry, I'll let you continue. But
no, you're good.
Nick Nori, I have so much respect for him because he's doing it how he wants to do it. And
exactly.
It's not necessarily perfect. It's not necessarily the craziest things, but he's going after what he wants, unashamed. You can make fun of the raps, you can make fun of whatever, but it's why are you? You're not doing it.
Exactly.
You're not putting yourself out there.
And that's the thing is I wish people could see the start of all these people. I wish people could see the beginning of all, because we only focus on the success story. We only focus on until they're 50 years old and they do the back then in their lives, right? But we only see the low stuff. Every celebrity they started like a normal human. like a normal kid, unless like they were like the Olsen twins. Like besides that, like they started as normal people, like you and me. Every leader you know, every pastor you know, they started normal people, had same issues. They were teenagers once, and they blew it. You know, like all these different things. And I think as we think about the future of the church, us as leaders have to do a better job at letting them know like our beginnings and our stories and what we went through and what we came through. Because that's where kids are going to be like, that's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's because I saw a black man who told me his story, how he raised up, and I said, oh, I can do that. If I never met Eddie, I would not be doing what I was doing right now. But I met him. He led me, was real with his issues, his story, his success. And I was like, oh, I can do it. It's possible for me. And so that's why I think is we have to let them see our holes. And that's the thing, like Nick, like, or anyone, like young people now, gamers, we got another kid. He streams all the time. Very low amount of viewers, but he does it every day. He's like, I'm going to do this. It's fun to me. I love it. Who cares? Every single day. And that's what I love about it is while Generation Z and Gen Alpha are perfectionists, they also really don't care what you think about it. Like if you're dissonant, they're still going to do it. Where back then, like if I started streaming and one kid told me they hated it, I would never do it again. Because I cared. I cared what people thought about me. But these kids, nah, bro, they're good.
Yeah, keep it going.
Yes, sir.
Got one viewer? Keep it going.
They don't care. No viewers? Let's go.
For real. We say this often. They're not the next generation. They're the now generation. Unpack that.
Well, I think it's in the phrasing, but so often we're saying, okay, all right, you're up next. You do it later on. That's not how life works, and it's not how it should work. Because if we don't get them now, they're not going to be here later. They ain't going to be here in the next generation. I have so many friends of mine who were following Jesus, who middle school, high school, were about it. And some leadership wasn't great. They didn't care that much. And they were kept telling, like, you'll change the game in 5 years. But now in 5 years, like, I'm not saying they're living sad lives, but they're not living the best life that they could be living. Not connected to church, not connected to even a leader that loves Jesus, like none of that. They're out here, and I don't want to say wilding, but like they're just out here living life and depressed. And I'm getting, I get phone calls from a bunch of them. It's funny, they usually text me on my birthday, which is weird, and like, how you doing? Like, can we link up and chat? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And sometimes when I listen to these friends, their lives are so sad, and they never bring up Jesus because they don't think they need Jesus, but their lives are so sad because no one told them that they could have done it when they were 13, when they were 14, when they were 15. I want to preach. Oh, nah, you'll do the offering. Like, I don't know. Yesterday I was like, you know what? We need a student to preach. We need to teach a student to preach for 22 minutes. Just get up there. They might say some foul, crazy things, but just that they can do it. We've had a couple students that are like, I want to be a worship pastor or a pastor. Bet. Well, let's have you hang out with me and Josiah one day and see what we do. See if you actually want to do it. I don't know. I just think so often we're telling kids they're up next, and we keep telling them they're up next. And I used to have this tension in my heart when I wasn't a youth pastor for like all my life. I was like, man, when's my turn? When am I going to go? When do I get to do this stuff? And now I'm in it, and I'm like, shoot, I wish I would have waited a little bit more. But that's what I think so often is like, we gotta let people see, because their kids are getting impatient. And if we don't help them get into what they want to now, they're going to keep changing. That's what you get, kids that change careers every other year. So, and a lot of students today, like a lot of students who have graduated that I've known today, they're terrified of what's next, because they were never told that they can start figuring that out right now. They're told, just wait. Oh, it's not that. It's not a rush, but also tell them that they can lead and change the world now.
Yeah, it's that balance of like, fan the flame right now, or else the flame may die out. But at the same time, have patience within the flame being built. It's like, you may not, like, we're going to do the best we can to fan the flame of like your passion, your desire, your hopes and dreams. But at the same time, like, we have to have patience in letting that fire get bigger and bigger and hotter until you like reach your goals. But if we don't fan the flame right now, then it's too late.
It's funny. Yeah. And it's funny, like, I mean, y'all are having a kid, right? Like, you're not going to get mad at your sweet baby when they can't walk
Yep.
as soon as they're born. Like, you don't get mad about that. And you won't get mad when they can't speak English, right? Like in a couple months in, like you don't get frustrated about that. But it's funny, these kids are learning in such a, right? Because the kids learning everything. They don't even know they exist.
Yeah.
And so it's funny when we have teenagers who are 11, 12 that are learning about this crazy world with racism, sexism, bigotry. I mean, all these different things. And we're like, figure it out right now.
Yep.
And we're not giving them any handles to the world. So of course they're gonna run into other things that give them handles, and we don't give them any handles, and we get mad at them. Get it right. It's like, no, let them learn, but let them fail in what they're trying to do, what they're trying to win at. So I mean, there's so many corny stories where it can be like the person's failed and then they became the best to ever do it. Not LeBron James; he was always the best. But I just know I think we have to give kids handles to things. And not get mad at them when they fail in the thing that they want to do.
Yep. That's so good. And the crazy thing is, like, if we don't do that and the church continues to stay old, or the church continues to stay in its rhythms and pace that it wants to and doesn't move with the now generation, you know, like with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, then the church will die. Like you said, like if we don't believe they're now, like in 5 years when we want them to be the church, or 10 years we want them to be the church, they won't be there. Yeah. The church will be non-existent. And I love like the story we heard the pastor say about where they had to shut a church down, and because they're not staying up to the times within culture, within relevancy of like whether it's the music, whether it's the paint on the walls, the carpet, or the church building, whatever it looked like. And the church eventually died because people stopped going to it. They're like, yeah, this is kind of old in here. Like, it doesn't feel like me. And the excuse was, we're trying to honor the legacy of those who sowed into this church. And eventually the church shut down. And he's like, you're not honoring their legacy with this. You're killing their legacy. Yeah. What those faithful few who started the church, sowed their entire lives, their mortgages into, is now gone. Yeah. And because you didn't want to shift with the new generation. You didn't want to shift with culture. You didn't want to shift with where church is going and what Jesus is doing right now. It's like, no, we don't want to rap around stage. It's like, no, we don't want to play upbeat music. It's like, well, if you don't move with that trend or whatever, then people are going to stop coming, and you don't honor anybody with that. And so we have to gear to the young, but we also have to lean into the wisdom of the wise, wisdom of the old, which I loved at that summer camp last night. Like the keys player was 65 years old, 65-year-old lady playing keys at a youth camp. I was like, let's go. And she was killing it. Yeah. And she's like, man, I'm just the mother of the worship team. And I love these kids. I love the youth. And because she's up there gearing toward the young. Yeah. And these kids support her and want to lean into her wisdom of worship and of like scripture and her walk, her faith. But it's like if we miss that, if there's a disconnect between the youth and the adults, you know, or the kids and the adults, or the kids and the senior pastor, then I don't know where the church. That's my fear. It's like I don't know where the church will be. And what I love, like one of the favorite things I've loved this summer, is that at 2 summer camps I was at, the senior pastor from those churches was at that camp as well.
That's not dope.
The entire time. Yeah. Leading a cabin. 7th graders. The guy yesterday, Pastor Brad, he was playing bass on the youth worship team, leading the charge. Yeah. I was like, let's go. This is it. Yeah. And he's like, I was talking to him after, he's like, as a lead pastor, like you get discouraged because you don't really see the fruit. That's why it's a must that as a lead pastor, you should be at youth camp, because that's where you see the fruit of what Jesus is doing in these kids' lives, in the future of their family. Like that's the fruit. It's like if you miss it, like you may never see the fruit of what you're preaching, of your investment into the lives. Yeah. And I was like, bro, you're awesome. You're here at youth camp. Like this is crazy. Like could do so many other things. But he's like, yep, it's helping out every part of summer camp. Yeah. The lead pastor was like, yeah, Mom, do it. I'll serve the food. I'll create the shower. Like they had to create showers at this church that they were doing camp at. And yep, I'll create the showers. I'll do this. I'm like, there's so much humility in that. And he's just like, man, I'm here to fan the flame. So we got it. We got to gear to the young, but also like,
Yeah.
lean to the wise.
Oh, and I think what's interesting is most, if you talk to older friends,
Yep.
they want the younger generation to learn from their mistakes, their successes, all of those different things. And the older mentors I have in my life, like I'll tell them like stuff that's going on in my life, stuff I'm walking through, and instead of the judgment that I think a lot of us fear, they're like, "Dang, I did that too," and I'm like, "What's up?" They're like, "Yeah, I remember when that happened 3 times." I was like, and I'm like, wow, like you actually have like a lot of, I mean, of course you have a lot of wisdom, but they're so willing to share their stories and their pain. And that's where young people can learn. And I think a lot of it is, and I think this is true, and I think it's something we always have to see, is the older generations are scared because like we're losing what we have. We're losing what we built. We're losing what we had. It was funny. I keep sharing this story because it's just hilarious to me. There was a young woman at our camp, and she came up to me. She said, "Nate, I'm going to take your job." And I shared it. I was at one of our campuses, and I shared that. And I said, "Hey, in 10 years, or 5 or 6, in 10 years, I'm not going to be here. This woman will be here." And they like looked at me like I was crazy, and I was like, "Isn't that what we should be about?
Come on.
Like I'm
That's
in
it.
10 years I'll be 34. Okay, so I understand I'm gonna be like an old man, but like I'm sure there's stuff I'm gonna want to hold on to.
Yeah.
And this young woman is probably gonna know way more about the generation that's coming up at that time than I will. So if it comes down to it, and I'm still here, and she's like, "Hey, I want to work here," I'm like, "Take my job."
Yeah.
Like that's what we should be setting younger people up for. That's what we should be doing. I understand there's like roles and stuff to learn, but if they go through the process and they go through the fire, and I'm like, and they're really about this, how could I not? You know what I mean? And like that, like it's actually set like a fire into me. I'm like, let's go. Like I gotta clean my stuff up. I gotta work better. I gotta get my work ethic right. I need to be on time because there's people who are looking at us and going, I want to do what they're doing, and I gotta fan that into flame. And so I called one of their leaders the other day. I said, "Yo, this is what we were told. This person wants to be a pastor, and not that that's the biggest deal in the world, but hey, this person wants to be a pastor. We got to start leading them today.
Come on.
We can't wait. We can't play. People take it super serious and like we can't play with their souls. We also can't play with their livelihood. And if there's something we want to be about, we gotta raise it up. So I don't know. I just think about that story. I'm like, if we're leaning into the wisdom of the old, if we're leaning into that, it's like I see someone that's like, "Hey, I'm going to take your job," and instead of going, "I'm scared, I'm afraid, the young people are going to take my job." At some point, yes. Like we have to hold everything we do like this and let the young people grab it, work with it, and we go, maybe don't do that. Maybe fix that. And then we have actually a full project that everyone like worked on together instead of just one. Because that's the thing, right? Is like right now it's one era of generation that's making everything for people that they don't know. Most of America or most of the world, that's what churches are like. Is like that church. They're gearing towards older. They're gearing towards money. Like they're gearing towards that. And then the people who ain't got no money, they're like, not for me. I'm out.
Dang. Woo. Okay.
Most here we go. Most nonprofit organizations and churches are actually funded by the ones that give like $25 a month. As opposed to the huge, obviously the more money you give, right? Like someone who drops like $3,000, right? But it's actually funded more, especially nonprofits are funded more by the small givers. But there's more small givers. So they're funded more by that. So why do we gear towards one way? Big donors, right? I've been a part of organizations and like that where it's like, why are we doing it this way when the faithful few are the ones that actually help driving and are actually in the ministry?
Come on. In closing, what would you say is the secret sauce to reaching the future church? Like if you're like, in order for the church to be the church in the future, the best church it can be, because we support the local church, we work for the local church. I hope we work for the local church the rest of our lives. It don't matter if it's Tacoma or wherever around the world, but we want the church to continue to exist And in order for that to happen and to be the best church it can be, what's the secret sauce?
Wow, that is a deep question. With my 24 years, leading to the wisdom of the old, 24 years of wisdom. No, I'm playing. I think it's just going to be highly care about relationships and be willing to let people fail. I think that's the big deal. Obviously, we understand that there's, hopefully understand everyone's human. And I think so often when we see students fail, we see younger people fail, we go, all right, that's a wrap. And that's being from Gen Z and being very close to Gen Alpha, like that's the biggest fear in the world. Yeah. And I want to be in a place where, and I think, in talking to students, they want to be in a place where it's like, I can't do this 100% yet, but the person highly wants to be with me and hang out with me, and I can fail. Like if I can't do the talk right the first time, can I do it again? Or is it like, oh, you can't do it right, you're out? Or I can't play an instrument right the first time. Can I learn how to play the instrument and be redeemed and do it again? That kind of thing. Or if I was a wild person at the youth ministry and I was talking the whole time or cussing the whole time and now I want to take it serious. Yeah. Will you let me in? Or is it like, ooh, remember what you did? Yeah. Remember who you were? And I think that's what it's going to be, is relationships and allowing the younger generation to fail. Like every other generation has gotten to do. Everyone gets to move on. But for some reason, the young people are like, figure it out.
That's so good.
So, yeah.
Come on. Well, you heard it here, folks. Let's go. That's a wrap.
Let's go.
The Collab, Season 1, Episode 9. The future of the church. We believe in the future of the church. And we love Gen Z. We love the church. I'm excited. Hyped up. Man, summer camps be getting me going.
For real.
They're exhausting.
Joe's ready to go.
They're exhausting.
He's ready to preach
again. But I'm ready. Let's go, bro. Run through this wall right here. But yeah, we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Every platform, encourage you guys, rate and review, comment, like, subscribe. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
SoundCloud, wherever you can listen to us. Wherever you listen to audio, we're there probably.
But encourage you guys. Thank you so much for those who have commented on YouTube, who shared this on their Instagram. We encourage it. Like, we want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what you guys want to know. Like, what do you want to hear about? What do you guys want us to speak into? Like, with transparency and honesty to where we're at, 29 and 24. Like, hey, we want to help raise up this generation and bring these conversations to light. And so we receive the feedback, 5 stars only. But share, comment, subscribe.
5 stars.
We love you guys. We'll see you next time.
Peace.